Hello and welcome to the White Collar Boxing Podcast. Obviously, the newly rebranded, it was Lights Out Performance before, but this is the podcast for you if you are into white collar boxing in any way. That is, if you are a boxer, that is, if you're a trainer, if you're a promoter, anything. Obviously, we will go over training, nutrition, ticket sales, what you should be bringing, mindset, all anything that comes into helping you improve as a fighter, as a trainer, whatever. It will be discussed in this podcast. I've got to say, we are proudly sponsored by Aries Boxwear. They create some of the best quality and best looking boxing equipment going. They're new on the scene and they are blowing up quick. So check out ariesboxwear.co.uk and use the code POD15 for 15% off. Now, today we are focusing in on what you need to be bringing to your first few fights. Now, I say your first few fights because obviously, if you've had a couple of fights, you should know what you should be bringing to the shows. Simple as that. You should know by now. As it's January, I know a lot of people are ticking off a bucket list and having a fight might be on there. So I know a lot of people around this time of year have been looking at booking in their first boxing fights. So if that is you, you need to listen to this show. Now, first and foremost, the first thing that you need to bring and that you need to be aware of, and I know this might sound like I'm teaching you to suck eggs, but bring your fucking boxing equipment, please. Don't leave the house without your gum shield. You will need a groin guard. The referee will check your groin guard when you get into the rings. You need to have a groin guard. Obviously, you need something on your feet. Boxing shoes, funnily enough, are much preferred. Boxing wrestling shoes are the best. Obviously, you can wear your normal trainers, whatever you like. Depends how seriously you're taking this. Same with your shorts. They don't have to be boxing shorts. It just depends on how good you want to look when you get into the ring. As I said, gum shield as well, that is a must. And then also you need to make sure that your coach, so if you're a coach and you're kind of new to this whole thing, you need to make sure you've got Vaseline. I was at a show in December and I was one of the only people in that changing room with a pot of Vaseline. If you were to charge £1 a scoop, you'd make an absolute fortune. Genuinely, it's crazy how many coaches forget this. And it does make a huge difference. Now, when you are getting Vaseline, that you're getting greased up, you're doing this to stop cuts. That's the main thing. That is the main thing that Vaseline does. That grease, when that glove hits you, especially if you're not that sweaty yet, if that hits you and there's just loads of friction, it can tear your skin and it opens up some nasty, nasty cuts. So you have that Vaseline on and it just stops that friction of the glove on your skin, just helps it slide off. And yes, you really want to, and yes, you do not want to miss out on that. You meant to make sure that you've got Vaseline. It does make a big difference. Secondly, you want to make sure, obviously, you've got the wraps. If you do it properly, if you're getting obviously fully wrapped up like professional style, you want to have your gauze bandages. I'm sure I can bring someone on and we can go through everything about actual proper hand wrapping. If not, Aries have some of the best hand wraps out. They've got a 4.5 meter long hand wrap and is attached to a Gelfoam knuckle protecting pad. So put on the best things, you can just wrap one of those on and that keeps your wrists and your knuckles really secure, really protected. Perfect, exactly what you need. You will need a water bottle. It's crazy how many people turn up without any sort of food, drink, or water, but water is an absolute must. We're going to go into that into more detail on the next point anyway, but as a coach, you'll need a clear water bottle to be in the corner. You shouldn't have a coloured water bottle. It should be clean just to make sure there's no shit in it because it's meant to only be fresh water. I mean, you don't need necessarily to be bringing like swabs and stuff. Most of the fights are going to be 3 to 5 2-minute long fights. So the likelihood of them opening up really bad, deep cuts, especially if they're all Vaselined up and majority of them are wearing head guards as well, you probably don't need that. But I mean, it's always better to take them just in case, but you should be fine with just Vaseline. And a towel. You will need a towel when they come back to the corner to make sure you're just wiping them off and you can reapply some of the Vas. just in case anything's sliding down to the rise or whatnot, just make sure you have a towel there. Again, will you need it? Maybe not, but it's always better safe than sorry. It's always better safe than sorry. And then same with like when the little ice compressions. Oh, you really want to need that for a 2 minute fight? Not really, because by the time your eye starts swelling, you're probably gonna be out of the ring anyway. So yeah, I'd say the main things from a corner perspective, you are just going to need obviously tape as well. Make sure you get some tape for the gloves, because again, a lot of promotions won't supply this, and then it becomes a bit of a faff, just trying to get gloves taped up and stuff. So make your life easier. Make sure you bring Vaseline. Make sure you bring some tape for gloves. Make sure you bring a towel, and make sure you bring water. As a coach, that is probably all you're going to need for the corner. That is it. Most promotions will have a spit bucket at the side, and a bucket there for like water and rinsing the gum shield and stuff. So you don't need to bring a water. You don't need to bring that. You shouldn't need to bring that anyway. Now, so coming back to what I said a second ago about water, make sure you as a fighter, this is your responsibility now. This is your prerogative. Make sure you bring the correct fluids and rehydration fuels. Now, that is food and that is drink. Now, if you've cut weight and if you're weighing in on the day before the actual fight, you will need to make sure that you are getting that energy and you are getting those carbs, you're getting those electrolytes and the salts into your body to optimize your performance in the ring. So I used to have this on a lot of the shows. I would fight on, you'd weigh in, say, late morning, early afternoon, and then you'd be fighting like 6 p.m. Especially if you're going out the way to like big hotels and stuff, or we used to do, so like Epsom Downs race course. You're at these big hotels, big like venues that are out in the fucking arse end of nowhere, and there is nowhere that you can really get food. You have to trek for fucking miles. And that I had that a couple of times on different occasions. And then it just makes your whole day so much more stressful because you can't relax. You then want to go and get some food. You need to go and find somewhere. Yeah, it's just a fuckery. Don't worry about that. Don't waste unnecessary time, effort, and energy and stress when you do not need to. Again, the fight promotions are only thinking about the fight night. What is going on the night of the fight? They don't really care about you as fighters, especially not before you get into the ring. As long as you make weight and you are ready to fight, that is all they care about. So again, don't think that you're anything special by being there. You just need to make sure that you look after yourself. So make sure you bring plenty of water. Make sure you bring some form of electrolytes, because again, rehydration isn't just about the water you drink, it's about getting those electrolytes into your body, into your muscles, and so that your body is performing optimally. There's a million and one different types. You can use anything from, say, like Diarrhelite to any number of the different electrolyte sachets that you can buy in the shop, in Boots, wherever. You can get those effervescent tablets, the ones that you throw into the water. You can get ones that you pour in. You can just get like Celtic sea salt and use that. Like, there's a million and one different options. I'm pretty sure there's loads of sport drinks like Lucozades and stuff that have got some in as well. So yeah, how you want to rehydrate is entirely up to you. Just fucking make sure you bring enough liquids to properly rehydrate. As same with food. As soon as you get off those scales, you want to make sure you start getting those carbs into your body. When you're going out for meals and stuff, or if you go out and you get like a celebratory meal and you don't go to somewhere like Nando's, or if you go to Nando's, like, you want to make sure the majority of what you eat is carbohydrates. Because when you get into that ring, your body is going to be primarily using carbohydrates. Almost 90% of the time that you are in that ring, your body is around, your heart rate is around that red zone, like 80 to 95%. You are up there because it's just intervals, being short, sharp moving. And then obviously you've obviously got all the cognitive energy demand as well, because you're constantly thinking, because you're constantly reacting to what your opponent's doing. So don't go out and just smashing Nando's, because really Nando's is loads of protein, loads of fat. Yeah, you can get chips and stuff like that, but you're just getting loads of fats into your system as well. And all that is going to do is slow down the digestion of those carbs, getting those into your body. As soon as you get off those scales, you're going to be getting fast acting carbs into your muscles. And I'm not just saying about just going and just banging off loads of honey, but having like a good quality like smoothie. I used to put Vitago, which is like a really fast acting and really fast digesting carb, into a smoothie. So as soon as I'd get off that scale, I'd have like a big thing of, it'd be pretty massive. And it'd have loads of Vitago in there. It would have hydration salts. It'd just be everything. And I'd just smash that off. It'd be like a litre and a half, and then I'll just go back to swigging water for a couple of hours, and then I'd have another like smallish meal, but again very carb dominant. And then obviously in the kind of hour or two leading up to the actual fight, that's when you should be smashing loads of like sweets. And I wouldn't drink caffeine before the fight for like 10 days. So then I would have a massive coffee or a Red Bull or a Monster, something like that, and then you get that extra added little fire from the caffeine as well. So there's a couple of different things you think about there. Obviously, negating that caffeine so that you can use that to your benefit. There's been a couple of different performance nutritionists that talk about different supplements and different foods and meals and breakdowns of meals that you should be having in the run up to fights and on fight night. So yeah, I am no nutritionist. I've just been in the trenches for years, and these are things that I've done. But speaking to them, similarly, it's what they preach as well. So now, what you need to bring to the event is all squared away. What I will say to you is, firstly, no white collar boxing show ever starts on time. I can say that categorically. I have been to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of boxing shows from all different promoters from all over the world. Literally, I've been to quite a few abroad as well. None of them ever start on time. So whatever the first fight bell is, give it at least half an hour. The first fight is always at least half an hour to an hour behind. So just keep that in mind. And also, I know a lot of the shows, you won't find out your start time until you actually turn up. You will get there, and there will be like charts saying the start times and what fights are on. So when you go and look at that chart, don't be annoyed if your fight time is a different time to what you anticipated. That is what we call just part and parcel of the game. So you might be thinking, yeah, I'll get in for at 7, 8 o'clock. Obviously, unless you're a headline event, unless you are the main event at a big show, you can be put on that bill wherever you can be put on. So again, don't be annoyed, don't be upset, don't be angry if you are put on at a different time. That is just how it is. What you need to think about more is what the challenging thing is obviously your fans, because obviously you've got your fans coming in. And especially for me, when I know, because I used to headline most of the shows, is by the time you get out of that ring, all of your fans are going to be, and all your mates are going to be absolutely battered. You just have to take that into consideration if you've got plans for after. So yeah, two things you need to be aware of. When you go up, your fight time could be whenever. So don't be stressed or frustrated if it's at a different time than you anticipated. Secondly, don't be stressed or frustrated if your opponent's changed. This happens all the time. I would say maybe out of my first 5 or 6 fights, I had trained for X opponent and I turned up and I was Mr. Y. Literally, out of my first 5 or 6, it was probably 3 or 4 times. You turn up there. Obviously, the promoters don't want to. They don't stress you out, so sometimes they just don't even tell you. I wasn't told. You just got to turn up and you just got to deal with it. So yeah, it's just one of those things. You just need to turn up. You need to crack on, and you need to deal with the opponent at hand. The thing is, when you're in your first few fights, it doesn't really make a difference anyway. Just get in there and crack on. Most people, you might think that you're training for a specific style of fighter and whatever, but I guarantee you, if you've only had a couple of fights, it's not going to make a difference anyway. What matters is your heart and your fitness. They are the two things that win fights. Your heart, or for me, it was my heart, my stubbornness, and my fitness. I did not care about taking the punch to the face because I knew I'd give you at least two more. And in your first few fights, as you know, you might not know, but they're just going to be super scrappy. And the one thing that will win fights is fitness, because most people gas out by that second round. By halfway through that second round, most people are blowing. So if you have the fitness to carry you through three rounds easily, and you can just keep focused, keep that work rate up, you can't almost not lose. As long as you don't do something stupid and get caught, if you just keep sharp and you just keep that pressure on, your opponent will fold. Fact. So yeah, that is all you need to focus on. It's just get in there and keep that work rate up. But make sure in the run up to your fight, you train properly. Now, I've got a full 12-week online coaching program for white collar fighters that gives you everything that you need to get an incredible shape. You will be the fittest, fastest, and most powerful fighter getting into that ring after this 12 weeks. So the links for that will be in the bio below. And yeah, just honestly hit that up. It will be an absolute game changer for you. Now, one thing that you need to learn to do at fights, especially your first couple, it's manage your emotions, because it is a fucking stressful run up to a fight. Because always in the back of your head when you're in the run up to a fight is that this opponent, obviously Gygo might not be a geezer, your opponent is gonna smash it. So you almost can't rest because you always know in your head, I could do a bit more, I could do a bit more, I could do a bit more. Now, this is why it's always good to have a good coach who's knowledgeable and experienced with regards to actual fights and fighters, because you need to listen to them, because they will help you manage your emotions. They will help you manage your training as well. So don't just think the more is merrier and just constantly training, pushing. You need to know when to rest as well as when to push, because your body can't adapt to the physiological demands of the training until you rest. Rest is what allows your body to recover so that you get fitter, stronger, more powerful. So if you're just constantly pushing, your performance will go massively downhill. You'll have a huge drop off. That's when you come into that kind of overreaching, overtraining phases. You need to make sure that you build in rest consistently to maximize your performance. Because again, training is just a stress, and stress on stress just leads to breakdown. Stress and then recovery leads to skyrockets in your performance. So yeah, be intelligent with the way that you're training. And remember, you're only going to be doing 3 2-minute rounds. So you don't need to be running 10 fucking miles every weekend. What will benefit you far more in white collar boxing is sprint training and getting powerful, really focusing on your anaerobic power, because that is what the main driver is in that ring. So the harder and faster that you are, and the more powerful and explosive you are, but the more that you can maintain those repeated sprint attacks, the better you will be as a fighter. It's all well and good being able to run 10 miles, like having that base level of aerobic fitness is very important, yes. But you're not running. When you're in the ring, you're not just floating along at a bang average state. You're constantly going up, down, because you're throwing those combinations, you're moving off. You're throwing those combinations, you're moving off. You're counter punching, you're stabbing that jab. It's, like I said, it's repeated sprint patterns. Bam, bam, bam. It's interval training. So you need to get your body adapted to that style of training and that style of intensity. You need to learn to be able to perform at those elevated levels of intensity, because if you're not, you're going to come unstuck in the ring. Again, being aerobically fit does have a massive benefit in the ring, but it's not the main focus. It's not the only thing you should be focusing on. You want to make sure that your anaerobic power is elite as well, because again, that is what really carries over into the ring. So keep that in mind. So if you've never done any sprint training before, get off your ass and get into doing some sprint training. And again, with sprint training, it's not just a case that you're just beasting yourself. You're sprinting 20 seconds, resting 20 seconds, sprinting 20 seconds, resting 20 seconds. Again, you want to be getting into those upper echelons of your heart rates, because what you need to think more about is like heart rate training, not just how you feel. It might feel like you're going very, very intense, but if you're not resting adequately, you're not going to allow your heart rate to get right back up there again. So when you're doing sprint training, you want to be looking at a work to rest ratio of like 1:5, 1:6. So that means if you're doing like a 10-second burst, you rest for 50 seconds. 10-second burst, rest for 50 seconds. That might sound boring, it might sound a bit long, but that is what's going to optimally improve your sprint performance. And then you can obviously do some more longer heart rate training, and these are absolutely fucking hideous. I'm not gonna lie to you. So these are when you're gonna do something like 4 minutes, and you want to try and maintain that heart rate in that red zone for 4 minutes. So you can do this on a treadmill. You're gonna set up that incline, and you're gonna be running at say 14 to 18. It depends how fit you are and how fast you are. But you just want to make sure that when you start running, that heart rate hits that red zone, and you want to just try and maintain that for roughly 4 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes, and then you're going to rest for two. Now, what that is called is threshold training. So you're at that kind of anaerobic threshold where your body is kind of zipping between being aerobic and being anaerobic. You want to, again, make that point as high as possible. And that is what's going to help your aerobic base fuel your training when you're in the ring. But again, as well as you're doing those, you still want to be bringing in those sprints, short, sharp sprints. Again, you can do this on the bag. 10 seconds just going all out, and then 50 seconds rest. 10 seconds just going all out, 50 seconds rest. Things like that. Assault bikes are great for that as well. 10 to 12 seconds on, 50 to 48 seconds rest. And again, just cycling through that. It's going to be horrible, but nothing in life comes easy. And you just got to remember that someone's going to try and punch your face in. So if that doesn't motivate you enough to get out and start training differently and doing something new, maybe nothing will. Anyway, that is it. So I hope I've given you everything you need to be fully prepared for when you come up to your first fight. Make sure you're training properly. Make sure you bring enough water. Make sure you bring stuff to rehydrate properly. Make sure you bring plenty of food, sweets to refuel adequately. Again, make sure you go and listen to my other podcasts with the performance nutritionists that I've had on. And then make sure you bring all your equipment. Your gloves, shoes, groin guard, gum shield, wraps, Vaseline, towel, just all of that stuff. Just have it with you so you don't need to wait. You don't need to worry about anyone else having it or need to borrow it or anything like that, because it's just not worth it. It's really not worth it. And again, for any boxing equipment, if you want new gloves, new sparring sets, whatever you want, go and check out Aries Boxwear. Put pod 15 and you'll get 15% off. Train hard, and let's keep winning.